and welcome to Hatching for Health, the Jessica Hatch Show. Tonight we're joined by a mother that is calling in from Tennessee. Now she has a little girl who just turned 1 named Josephine, and this little girl has Antler-Bixler syndrome. Now this is something that is known as a child with special needs, so it has inspired her to help mothers of other special needs children, and we're going to learn all about what this condition is as well as what she's doing for these mothers. So go ahead and join us now, Anna Grace Owen. How are you?
I'm so good. It's so good to talk to you.
It is. We've been connecting on social media, and it's nice to finally, be live with you. So tell me, so you're based there out of Tennessee, and
Yes.
I want to learn a little bit about both your daughter and the things that you do for other mothers that have children like you. But tell us exactly what this condition is.
So Antler-Bixler syndrome is a musculoskeletal syndrome. It affects how her bones grew in utero. So we detected it when I was about 24 weeks pregnant. We found some strange anomalies that we could not really discover what they were. We thought she had a neurological disorder, but once she was born, we had a geneticist come talk to her and come look at her and assess her and diagnose her with this. So essentially what happened was that her bones didn't grow correctly, and so it's given her some challenges, I would say, as a baby and a toddler and as she grows up. So it's partly what's called craniosynostosis, which is in your skull. You have natural slits. They're called sutures, okay? They're all over your head.
Okay.
And craniosynostosis is when those sutures have been fused. So the idea of your skull is that it grows with your brain. So your brain's a big muscle. It's got to grow, but it's got to have room to grow. But craniosynostosis is when the sutures are fused and it can't grow. So it puts pressure on various parts of her brain. So she's had 2 surgeries to get rid of that, or to, I guess, not get rid of it, but to fix it. She had one back in October, and she had one recently as well.
Okay, so it's where they're basically like kind of releasing pressure, like kind of opening up the skull really for the brain to do its growth.
Correct. If they didn't do that, then for Josephine, hers was bicoronal, so these are your coronal sutures right here. And if they didn't do that, then her brain would have grown up like this, and it would have been like a cone almost, putting pressure on all your frontal lobes, which cause development. And if you put pressure on there, it could cause severe autism, epilepsy, all sorts of things. So they had to go in and surgically correct that with 2 different surgeries.
And is this something that's been, like, I guess, known for a long time? I mean, the name I've never heard of, but when was it first diagnosed?
So in the world of genetic syndromes, there are a lot of syndromes that you'll never hear about because they're so rare. Hers is congenital, so her dad and I both carry a recessive gene, and it is 1 in 4 chances of having a child with this syndrome, and she's our 4th child. So it's kind of odd that it worked out like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was discovered back in, I believe, the 1930s, and then it was really refined in the 70s. It was called something else in the 30s, and then about the 70s is when they named it Antler-Bixler. So it affects about 1 in every 250 million people.
Okay, wow, yeah, because I had here some statistics that were looked up, and it was like 1 in a million, but you're saying 250 million people, one out of...
Right, so there's only about, I've heard two different studies, right? So I've heard there's only about 50 people that have ever been diagnosed with it, and then another person said there's about 100. So either way, it's very, very rare.
Yeah,
and
it's nice that they have surgeries, that can actually help the process versus, for being so rare, obviously there's not even been that many surgeries tied to this specific condition. So the way I think about it is it's like
it's like an umbrella, and it houses a bunch of anomalies underneath it. So you have the craniosynostosis, which is actually not as rare as you would think. A lot of people deal with craniosynostosis, but they just deal with it as babies.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has what's called mid-face hypoplasia, which means that her midsection of her face is very small, which made her nasal passages very small, which means that she couldn't breathe through her nose enough to sustain life. So she has a tracheostomy tube right here. And this is how she breathes. And so this is her biggest struggle with the syndrome, is the trach. And that's what like lands us as special needs parents, really, is her trach.
Really? So everything is it kind of, most of the concerns are from the neck up, or you mentioned the bones?
No, it's her whole body.
Whole body, okay.
So, yeah, she has, she has the craniosynostosis, she has the mid-face hypoplasia, which causes a trach. Mm-hmm. Then she has what's called radiohumeral synostosis, where her radius and her humerus are fused right here at the elbow. And so her arms are stuck like this, both of them. So to me, it's almost like she has Barbie arms. And that's something that I think is going to be her biggest struggle as life goes on and she grows up, because we can handle this. This will go away eventually, but her arms, the orthopedist does not suggest we operate on her arms, because he thinks that it will cause a lot of pain and really not be very helpful in the long run. Mm-hmm. And so maybe one day when she gets older, if we decide to do it, it might be helpful, but as a child, it won't be. Okay. She also has a G tube. So she has a tube in her stomach that we feed her directly, because she has something called aphasia, oral aphasia, and she doesn't like things to be in her mouth. So like all of her swallowing muscles work, but she gags a lot. And so we just put her baby formula directly into her stomach. And then she has, going down, she has clubbed feet. And so when she was born, her feet were like this, like they were sideways. Wow. And we've done some casting where we like wrapped them up and kept it on for like a week or so. And then we tried to do some orthotics, kind of like braces on her legs, but she did not like the braces. It caused her a lot of pain. So we're kind of tabling it for now until she gets a little bigger, and trying to do more physical therapy stuff for her with that. Like what she was doing today with her physical therapist. But that's kind of...
Yeah, you're like, that's kind of it, but it's like...
It's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. And having three other children that are healthy, right? They don't have any of this condition. So, just having... 1, 2, 3 and no concerns, and then it's like all at once. So, I mean, I don't know if the ages of them, but I'm sure that's tough, just as brothers and sisters to try and understand that, and all the attention that Josephine needs.
Absolutely. My son is 6, and he keeps saying, "Mom, Josephine gets more attention than me." And I was like, "Do you need attention?" Love you.
Yeah. And so what is your oldest child?
So I have Penelope is 7.5, and then Harrison is almost 6, and then Charlotte is 3, and Josephine just turned 1.
Okay, so they're all really
like 1,
close
3,
together.
5, and 7. Yeah.
Yeah, really close together. How do they interact with Josephine? Like, how do they understand things and try and help?
Yeah, we tried to explain things to them. We didn't tell them anything when I was pregnant, because we didn't really know what was going on, and I didn't want to scare them. And remember, a year ago, we were right in the middle of a shutdown with a global pandemic. So there was already a lot of stress in their little lives. And so once she was born, she spent 2 months in the NICU before she came home, in the neonatal ICU. And so they could meet her till she was 2 months old, because of COVID, they were not allowed in the hospital
to go there. Yeah.
So I would go every day I think there was only a few days that my husband went and I did not.
Mm-hmm.
And I would bring home pictures and videos, and we'd show them, like, this is what she looks like. This is, this tube going in, and this is this tube going in, and this is this IV, and that's what this is for, and this is what this machine is for. And so I tried to normalize it as best I could from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was having her surgeries. We were talking about, she can't breathe. Her nose doesn't work the way she needs it to. So we have to have surgery. So they can tell you more about her condition than most other people. And it's...
And so she's had 3 surgeries to date, like the nose surgery and then the 2 of the skull?
She's had 6.
6.
She's, from what I've learned I am not a medical background at all. So everything I've learned has just been through her. Mm-hmm. But from what I understand, a procedure that you go under anesthesia is considered a surgery because you have to go under anesthesia. So total, she's had 6. She's gone under anesthesia 6 times. She had her trach and G-tube surgery. They consider those 2 different ones. And then she had her first brain surgery. She had 2 different airway evaluations, and then she had her second brain surgery. So,
yeah, it's been quite a bit. Well, we do have to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to continue talking about Josephine and also the things that you're doing with other mothers that are in your position and kind of helping them live a better life. So we will be right back after this break, and during the break, we will see some photos of Josephine and see the stages that she has taken from a baby up to 1 year old, and then we'll be right back with you. Imagine hearing the news as a parent that your child has been diagnosed with a condition that is degenerative or life-threatening. Now imagine being told that there's little to no research for the condition that even exists, making it difficult to try and figure out what to do next. The reality is that for so many rare conditions, finding specialists who understand the condition and being able to make informed treatment decisions for their child is very challenging. Each episode, I will help with my network of physicians and medical resources across the U.S. to attempt to connect the dots by bringing widespread recognition of rare conditions and connecting families to the best treatment, clinical experts, resources, and support. I'm going to highlight these hard-to-diagnose diseases and offer in-depth awareness for families of children in the rare disease community. I believe we are all in charge of our own healthcare, and pushing for answers and creating awareness for these various rare health conditions can make the world around us a better place. Not only am I a huge advocate who seeks to spearhead the fight to bring rare conditions to the forefront of research, but I personally had my own rare condition. In this rare condition, I was able to be cured of due to early detection. My passion to help others was fueled by that experience, and it has led me to start the Hatching for Health show. Now, this show is a vehicle for us to create awareness to help these children find cures. Welcome back to the Hatching for Health show. We are visiting with Miss Anna Grace Owen and her little daughter Josephine. We're talking about a syndrome that is not very common. In fact, 1 in every 250 million people or even have this diagnosis, and it's known as Antler-Bixler syndrome. So going back, Anna, you've got Josephine now that you've brought on, and you were just kind of telling me a little bit about, so she's 1 year old, right, as of now? She just turned 1?
Yes.
And so you mentioned she normally has a little trach here, but is that just kind of underneath the clothes for the breathing?
No, it's right here.
Oh, okay, now I see it. Okay.
It's a tube. Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
That is how she breathes.
Okay. And so it's not like heavy breathing, so it seems like she does well with it. You know, such a little girl, you think that
she's amazing.
Toss and turn. I know. Yeah, she seems so calm.
Well, it's held on. You can't really see it because it's underneath this bandana, but it's held on by a necklace. Okay. So they're called trach ties. So you think of it like a choker necklace that you'd wear, but it's holding the trach in place.
Okay.
And so it gets changed out every other day so that we can wash it and sanitize it and everything, because it is a direct link to her lungs. So you don't want anything dirty or contaminated to be sitting in there, or you will contaminate your lungs.
Yeah.
And get sick.
I see.
Won't you?
And so she's not been able to speak yet, but that's something that y'all are hopeful for, that she'll be able to start communicating. And
yes. So because she has a trach tube, where the trach sits right here in her throat, the voice box and the vocal cords are above it. So when the air comes out from her lungs, it doesn't pass by the vocal cords or the voice box, so she doesn't make any words. She sometimes can put sound around her trach, and she'll coo or kind of make gurgling sounds, but actually if you hear her crying like a baby cry, it means her trach has fallen out and it's an emergency. You need to act fast.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's only ever happened 2 times in her life.
Really? That
her trach has fallen out, and that I've heard her cry and go, something's wrong, and then you have to jump to attention.
So but you can still hear her cry when it's still in, or is it actually, you don't actually hear any crying unless it's fallen out?
Right.
So she's like a perfect little baby.
Yeah.
I mean, it really has to get an intense cry for it to come out.
You're right. So it makes all the faces and the body gestures and everything, and she does tear up when she cries, but we hear nothing.
Okay.
We don't hear any sounds.
Yeah.
We don't hear any crying. There's been just a few times that I've actually heard her crying, and it was a special situation. Like, there's a passing valve that it's a cap that you can put on the end of the trach. Okay. And it teaches her to pull her air through the passing valve and out her mouth. You can't push the air back through it. Yeah. And that's also called a speaking valve. And so we heard her crying when she had that on. But other than that, like moms who have newborns and little babies who still wake up in the middle of the night, you listen for them in the middle of the night to cry, and that's your signal to go get them. Josephine has never done that. And so I've never heard her crying in the middle of the night and would go get her to feed her. Like, she's never cried out loud. So you just have to kind of have your own schedule of when, that typically would be to feed her, and it's just you go and do it versus them leading you. So because she has a trach tube, she's considered medically fragile, and she has to be monitored 24/7. There has to be eyes on her at all times. So she has a daytime nurse that sits with her 4 times a day, and then at nighttime we are qualified for nursing care at night, but we don't have any nurses right now. So her dad and I trade out. Like, tonight's my night in the bedroom with her. Okay. And we have a recliner, and I will pull it up next to the crib, next to all of her equipment and her emergency equipment. And while she sleeps, I will snooze and then watch her, and then snooze and then watch her. And all of her machines make really loud noises if something goes wrong, and so it's easy to know that something has happened if something ever happens. Yeah, so she gets a lot of attention. Always, there's always someone right there with Josephine. Yes. So with insurance and things of that nature, I know you mentioned you guys get provided care in the evenings when there is nurses available. Is like your current insurance covering all these things, or is there out of pocket? So our private insurance does not.
Okay.
But we qualify for state insurance, and it's called, in Tennessee, it's called TennCare. And so
Okay.
she qualifies for the highest level of TennCare.
Okay.
And we have yet to have anything get rejected as far as, oh, we're not going to cover that.
That's good.
That's just incredible, because I've heard horror stories of other families who don't get it. But if we didn't get TennCare, because TennCare is the one who covers all the nursing, we just wouldn't have nursing. We would just do it ourselves all the time, and just be exhausted all the time.
She's very alert. She is very, interested in everything around. Like, you can just, sense. It seems like her senses are very, heightened. So that's good. Hey, how are you? Yeah, she likes the camera like any little bitty kid. It's like, oh
my goodness.
So tell us about your efforts to help other special needs moms, because I know that you essentially are helping to mentor them, some being probably new moms, undertaking a situation that, like yourself, possibly a few kids, and then all of a sudden they have a child with special needs, and it's, it's an around the clock situation. It's not something you can, I'm going to drop you off here, or you're going to go play this activity. It's definitely much more intense. So what are you doing and kind of offering these other moms to connect with you?
So first of all, being a special needs mom or a mom of a chronically ill or medically complex, there's all different kinds of categories. It can be very isolating. It can be very lonely. I mean, even between me and my husband, I have more knowledge about and more practical experience with Josephine than he does, because he goes to work and I stay with her. And so it can be very isolating, very lonely, very fearful and stressful and full of anxiety, because you think of your tiny 1-month-old, or she got her trach placed when she was 3 weeks old. And so you think of your tiny preemie going under surgery, and it's terrifying. And so the first thing I do is I reach out to, or invite people to reach out to me, to special needs parents, mostly women. Some guys have, like some dads, but mostly women. And I just am a listening ear. I say, first, tell me about your child. I want to hear all about them. I want to hear their diagnoses. I want to hear what you deal with on a day in and day out basis. I want to know everything about your child. And I will tell you, most special needs parents really just need that. They need something to say, if you know, you know. And it's that really quiet, like head nodding understanding of, I know exactly what you're going through. I've slept in the uncomfortable chair in the ICU. I know what it's like to not know if your child's going to survive the night, or to get no sleep, or to have the nurses constantly like jabbering in your ear. Like, I get it. I know. And so the first thing I do is connect. And I build a relationship. I establish a connection, and I just want virtually like cry on their shoulder for them, and have them cry on my shoulder, Hi. Hello. What's going on?
She's like, I want to see you.
I know. And a lot of us special needs parents are not medically trained before having our children. And so what I know, everything I know about her condition, I've learned from the doctors, and I've learned from experience, and I've learned from the therapists that come in every single week. And it's really great to kind of flex that knowledge. Get it out. Bless you. Good, gorgeous. You have bad allergies and you're watching this, you know how she feels. But I start with connecting with people, and then I have a small community that is virtual that I have built around women and special needs parents, special needs moms especially.
Okay.
But yeah.
So essentially it's a community that you've created, rather than, obviously, as though it's not a full-time job just being a mother with a special needs child, but, wanting to take time and reach out to other, mom or dads, parents in general, and just kind of give them that listening ear, trade feedback. And I'm assuming there are probably different conditions that correlate, so it's something that you learn that you can educate them on and vice versa. So, is there a particular location that I guess they can go to connect with you, or is it just directly through your social media?
It is through my Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. That's the one that I can navigate easily and can navigate around her care schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. Because whereas I do have to monitor her, she sleeps. So like I'm awake and then I get bored. So I can get on social media and chat with people at that point.
Yeah. And what's your social media handler? Is it Anna Grace Owen or?
It's my Anna Fit.
My Anna Fit.
Yes, it's at my Anna Fit if you want to find me. I'm also use a bunch of like special needs hashtags and things like that. So people follow me and find me that way. And I've connected with people from literally all over the world. And it's really, really amazing how social media has, a lot of people hate on social media, but it's really turned into such an amazing platform for people who, like me, who can't leave their house.
Of course.
And I personally am not shut in. I personally do not have a chronic illness, but my child does. And there's still a pandemic going around. So she has what's considered a fragile airway. And if she were to get a respiratory illness like COVID-19, it would shut her down.
Yeah.
And so
you're still very, very confined to being at home.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I go to the doctor or the hospital or appointments. I come home. I pick up groceries. I come home. Like very rarely do we leave for extended periods of time, and she does not. She typically stays here with her nurse.
Yeah. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed having you guys on. We do have to wrap up, but thank you so much for taking time this morning and allowing Josephine to be on with you. I think it's special when we can, actually see the little one that we're talking about and understand the conditions and the character traits. So thank you guys. Absolutely. And we look forward to connecting others with you. Hopefully we can connect you with some other moms and dads.
That would be so great. Can you say bye?
Bye. And thank you all for tuning in to tonight's episode of Hatching for Health. We will see you right back here next Tuesday at 7:30.